Welcome to Oracle tutorial. So last tutorial we were discussing about the Oracle tables and records. So let's continue that because we were not done with that. So we were discussing about the different data types. So let me write down this word data type. And as you probably heard, so we have string, which in Oracle is varchar2, and then numeric is number. Then we have 12 or 2. So this is the precision. Then if it is let's say one character field like a gender, then we call something called char. So char by difference is basically a varchar2 field with just only one character. So it will always have only one character. So these are we'll cover some more data types, but these are the basic data types. So remember, what the fundamental of the data type is that it defines a type of data you want to store, and it defines its size to the maximum. So for example, if you define this as 20, you can put 20 or less number of characters, and for a number you can put 12 or less number of digits. So you can always put less, so the database doesn't have any problem with that to store. But only when you put more, by default it can have two things can happen. It can truncate and give you a warning, or it can simply, your insert statement simply can fail, saying that you are giving more than what it can hold. So that's about the data types. The other important part I want to talk about is before we really get down to write some code to see how it stores data. So let's say this is your okay, we have actually do database. So let's say this is your employee table, and this is your department. Now, as I said, that an employee have departments, right? So now, if an employee Joe has belongs to, let's say, HR, and David belongs to manufacturing, let's write it like this. So now you can store the employee data in two ways, right? Or in one way is that you can write here, you can define columns. So one of the columns we discussed last time is department, and then we can insert a record which says Joe and then department HR, and then in this department which we have again HR, and then location of the department, let's say we say building 2, and then we have maybe description, something, let's say. Now the problem with storing the data like this, so as you see, right, we are storing the HR, the name here in the EMP table, and let's say tomorrow your department name from HR to changes, let's say everybody, you need to say the full name, human resources. So whenever you access the data, you need to store that. So what you have to do is that you have to go to this employee table and then update all the 10,000 employees, or let's say 1,000 employees who has HR to human resources, or maybe the building location has changed. So anyway, we're not storing the building information. So for example, okay, let's say there are two problems. One is if we want to now run a report where we get all the employees and their departments and location. So we have to do something called like a join, because the location of the department is not really in this table. So we have to join this and extract the location information from department. Now, but whenever you join, you have to join with certain clause or keys. So we say that the only thing common between this and this is department. So which is the department name. So here also this is a department. So let's say this is a name of the department, and here we call it department name. So we join with department name and get also the location. So we say where employee, the department name in employee is equal to department name of department table. Then based on that we can get the locations. But then, so that's called something called the relation. So this is one of the fundamental things of the relational database management system, where the data is stored across different tables and they are joined through something called relation. Now the second part is something called normalization. Now we'll get to the details of normalization later, but we were discussing about this issue that where the name of the department changes from HR to human resources, so you have to go and update all the 5,000 records. Now, so what if we do something like, let's say each department has a ID, an unique ID. So let's put it here, ID, or let's put it something called department ID. Now remember, this is not an accounting thing where even a company internally can have associate departments with certain numbers, like 103 means department HR, 105 means this. But also if it doesn't have that sort of numbers, we can still generate a ID unique to the within the database so that it is not exposed outside. So we call it department ID. And then here also, instead of putting department name, we store department ID. So then even if your HR changes, the name changes HR to human resources, we really don't have to update anything here because the department ID remains same. All you have to do is that there is only one row for department HR department, so we update that row. So what we are saving is really we are saving updating instead of 5,000 rows to only one row. And that is important because you don't want to really create extra. If the work can be done efficiently, meaning if you can update less number of rows, then it should be done that way. It also keeps things clean, so that the information is more modularized, so that where all the department information is stored in one place, another and only the employee related information is stored in another place. So in this situation we would be joining through department ID instead of department name. So that's one of the things, and this is related with something called normalization, which would come back later. But let me write it here. Normalization. What is this really is basically putting the information or putting the relevant information in separate tables. So for example, you don't duplicate department name or details. So for example, you can say that, okay, along with the department name in the EMPL table, I might want to store also the building of the department building. So that's sort of what is called is information duplication, because if you say that if Joe and David both belong to HR, so let's write Joe, David. Okay, my handwriting is not great, but let's see if we can get better. So if you have Joe and David, and then we have if we want to store department name and the location at the same place, what we end up doing is Joe, David, and then if both belong to HR, we say HR, we say building 2, building 2. So, and this is goes in the EMP table. So as you see, if this is 1000 rows and if HR has 1000 employees, then all these information, HR and building 2, these information would be duplicated 1000 times. So instead of that, and then think about if you can extend, if the department has, let's say, 4 sets of information, right? You may end up duplicating all the information, and this is, it can cause problems because you can have more storage, you have duplicate information, and then also if you have to update building 2 to building 3, then you have to update all the 10,000 rows. So instead of that, if we just store department ID here and store, and then all the HR and building information in the department table, and then what will happen, as you see in the last, we only have to update one place if anything changes, and also it will reduce the amount of data, which amount of the size of the HR building. Anyway, so we'll cover some of this in our next video. Thank you.